Howdy, folks. Welcome to Bikes, Burgers, Beers, and welcome to 2022. Let's hope this year works out a lot better than the last couple, hey? So, you can see that I am riding a motorcycle that is new, and this is somewhat of a reveal video slash opinions and, going for a little adventure with the bike. So, I recently bought this Royal Enfield Himalayan. And in order to do that, I had to sell my bike that I said I would never, ever, ever sell. Well, guess what? Never say never, hey? I do miss the Classic 500. I will say the things that I miss the most is the 500 had so much more torque. And getting up the hills without having to bother changing gears, or if anything, changing too many gears, the Himalayan does lack in torque in comparison for really what's only I think 80 or 90 cc deficit. So that's a little bit disappointing, but apart from that, the trade-off of everything else is so worth it. And what are those trade-offs? Well, really, what I'm talking about here is a smaller engine that is just as easy, if not easier, to maintain, a more modern design that's counterbalanced for more comfort. Not that there was anything wrong with my Royal Enfield Classic 500. I found I was one of the lucky people that didn't have really many vibrations. However, while there is many reasons I sold the Classic 500 and bought this Himalayan, I'm going to go through some of them today, some of the most important points. First and foremost, a friend of mine, Richie, who owned this bike, he only just bought it last year. This is a 2020 model. It has about 3,000 kilometers on the clock right now, and a couple hundred more since recording this. But he had to sell the bike. Now, originally he said to me, look, I'm just not riding it anymore and all that stuff. And I guess, he didn't want to admit some of the other main reasons why he was selling it. However, when I was picking up the bike, he told me an unfortunate piece of news, and that was that he is suffering from a very rare and incurable bone condition, and I believe related to cancer. And unfortunately, it means that if he comes off, which, we all have that fear of it happening, if he comes off, his bones will not heal if they break. So imagine breaking a leg or a shoulder or a collarbone or an arm and it never heals, and you spend the rest of your life with a broken arm or broken leg. I would probably stop riding for that reason too. It's a pretty good reason. So, unfortunately, he had to sell the bike. Now, I asked him, what do you want for it? And he made me an offer that I could not refuse. Let me put it to you this way. I basically broke even selling my old 12-and-a-half-year-old Royal Enfield Classic 500 with over 40,000 kilometers on the clock. And I just basically bought a brand new Himalayan for what I sold the Enfield, the 500 for. So the opportunity was too good not to take. I really didn't want to miss it. And I've always kind of wanted a Royal Enfield Himalayan. When they first came out, I did look at them, I test rode them, and now I own one for nearly half the price of a brand new. So that was one reason why I did that. The second reason I did that was because I wanted something that was a little bit more suitable to the kind of riding that I'm planning on doing in the near future. And while there's no argument that the Classic 500, which is basically very closely related to the Bullet 500, is a more than capable motorcycle to transverse the entire planet if you need be. I mean, if it can last through the Himalayas and go through Mongolia and all that sort of stuff, you can pretty much guarantee the bike is going to survive a trip around Australia. Let's face it. The thing is, though, is I wanted a little bit more ground clearance. I wanted a little bit more off-road capabilities based on the things that I'm expecting and planning on doing. Now, I'm not doing anything hardcore because the Royal Enfield Himalayan isn't a hardcore off-road bike. It's not some KTM. It's not even a BMW GS 1200 or 1250 or whatever. Those bikes are super capable, but you wouldn't take a GS or even a KTM, and I'm talking about the big KTMs that are sort of, competing with the GSs and all that sort of stuff. I'm talking about bikes like that where you wouldn't take them on single trails and things like that. And the Himalayan, I think, a lot of people poo-poo it because they think, oh, it's slow, it's incapable, it's got low ground clearance, the spec sheet is basically a laughing matter. The reality is that people have been going around the globe on the Himalayans now for a number of years. Itchy Boots comes to mind. There's a few other people that have ridden equal adventures and long distances, both publicized and not publicized. I think, if anything, the Himalayan in the last sort of 5 and a bit years that it's been around, Royal Enfield has improved it every time. There was issues with welds and poor quality and headstocks breaking and all that sort of stuff. The reality is that these days those problems are all gone. And let's face it, every bike has known problems. Let's not talk about KLR 650s and their known problems. And if you don't know, just Google it. I'm sure you'll find it within 5 seconds. The GSs have their own known problems, in addition to the fact that they cost a fortune to maintain. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all of those sort of things, but I am going to talk about the reasons why I have such a bike. First and foremost, like I said, easy to maintain, cheap to maintain, very economical on fuel, and it's not so much about being a cheapskate, it's more about the fact that you don't want to keep forking out dollars to keep adventuring, to keep having fun. The other thing is that because the Himalayan has sort of forged itself into the market as an affordable, fun adventure bike, there are tons of accessories out there. There are so many Farkles out there you can buy for this bike. And the other thing is that this has come out with, well, a whole bunch of stuff. It gives you a whole bunch of opportunities to really Farkle up your bike if you want to. Now, when I got this, my friend Richie had already Farkled a fair bit of it. There are a few more things I'd like to purchase or change on there, and that's more of a customization issue. It's not that I have a problem with the existing designs. So there's no real issue there. And speaking of improvements, Richie gave me two different seats for it. Airhawk seats. I think they're just like padded air pockets that sit on top of your seat, and I've never used one, but I will give it a try. I put it on top of the bike, and I kind of thought of that, the old like hemorrhoid donut that you sit on when you have some problems with your sphincter. So I'm not really sure if I'm going to keep it on the bike or not. I probably won't. I'll likely upgrade to the Royal Enfield touring seats that are more comfortable, and I believe the brand new Royal Enfield Himalayan already comes with the Royal Enfield touring seat, something that I think they should have done in the first place. One of the other things I think they should have done in the first place, when they fitted ABS to the models a few years ago, they should have already put a button on the instrument cluster to disable the ABS, because it's an off-road bike, really. Now, the brand new model has that, along with the Tripper, which I don't really care about. I don't care about the Tripper. I think the less Farkles as far as electronics go, the better. But one of the things that appeals to me on the newer model, which mine doesn't have, is the ABS on and off button. So I will likely be modifying mine with an ABS on-off switch somewhere in the instrument cluster or on the handlebars or something. So look out for that video. Now, the other reasons, like I said, it was cheap to maintain. It was easy to maintain. The valve clearances are adjustable via tappets, so I don't have to pull anything apart from taking the petrol tank off, undoing a valve cover, and there it is. Easy to adjust. It's got the old flat blade screw head and the locking nut, which is probably an 8mm or a 10mm or something. And I'll do a video on that later on down the track when required. It is a brand new bike, so it does have warranty. I'm going to talk to my mate Richie, who does work in a Royal Enfield dealer as well, and find out if I do really need to take it in to get it serviced with them under warranty. That will suck. because I'd like to have warranty of the new bike, and there's about, I think, a year and a half of warranty left on it or something like that. So not that I plan on ever using it, but you never know. So that'll be good to confirm. The other reasons I got this bike is because it is slow, and you might think, well, why would you do that, Steph? Why would you want to slow? You know what? I sat on 110 on the freeway the other day. No problem. Sure, it's getting close to the top end of its rev range and it's run out of puff. It doesn't have any more to give. But I'm not planning on overtaking anyone. I'm just tootling along on the bike, and that's fine for me. And you can see in the video, it does overtake anyway. It's not like it completely falls behind. I did notice the lack of torque does make a difference compared to the 500 I had, and I do have to drop down a few more gears to make it all happen. But when it does, it's absolutely fine. Now, doing a bit of a walk around here on the bike, nothing special. I mean, you've seen everyone knows what the Royal Enfield Himalayan looks like. I'm not going to do a massive sort of thing here, but this gives you an idea of what the bike looks like. It's red and black, which, funny enough, my GPX, my first ever bike, my GPX 250, was red and black, so we've come full circle. The GPX 250 probably had more power than this thing, though, so let's let's keep things into perspective. However, talking about overtaking and power, I don't really have an issue with it. I thought it was fine. The power and torque is adequate. Could it use 5 or 10 more horsepower? Of course it could. But you know what? I remember people saying that about the GSX-R 750 or the 1100 or the whatever. The only bike really that people don't really ask for more horsepower is probably something like a Hayabusa. But then again, people put NOS and turbochargers and superchargers on those things too. I mean, power's power. We're always going to want more. And I know that there are some... here I am getting caught in the rain. I know there are some more options out there for the Royal Enfield for power and things like that. So, Tech Bike Parts is making fully customized camshafts for better airflow, a longer intake and all that sort of stuff. Am I going to bother with that? To be honest, I don't see the point in this area of the market. And the reason I say that is simply this. If I was to say have something like a Japanese bike of any nature, whether it's a twin-cylinder 500 or 600, or whether it's something faster like an inline 4 from the past, if I spent $1,000 on some parts and accessories, I would get a significant increase in horsepower and torque, without question. On a Royal Enfield, I find that spending $1,000 to $2,000 on camshafts with different grinds, and then you have to follow that up to get more, an actual advantage out of it. You need to get a power commander of some description, upgrade the intake with a new air filter, different design, maybe modify the airbox. And, some people love doing all that stuff, and I liked doing all that stuff about 20, 25 years ago. I couldn't care less about that now. I'm happy keeping the bike stock and letting it run as is, and it's absolutely fine, it's reliable, and it's adequate for me. The amount of money you're going to spend on doing all of that, and if you're not capable of doing the modifications yourself, you need to pay someone to do it, you're looking at something like, the cost versus horsepower improvements is so laughable. I remember guys on the Royal Enfield forums talking about their classic 500s and getting different heads and getting, increasing it putting on the GT 535 heads on it and all that sort of stuff, or even going to the point of replacing the piston and cylinder. And I just laugh and think, you've just spent like $1,000, $2,000, maybe $3,000 on all these parts, and you've got a very small increase in horsepower. We're talking like 2 or 3 horsepower increase. And I know there's guys out there as well that have doubled the horsepower and torque of the Royal Enfield Classic 500 engine, but they have gone into significant machining and costs and research into making that happen. Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible. But I always just think about the reality of keeping your bike reliable and increasing the power. uh, the amount of money you spend on those parts, I don't know, maybe I might do it later on down the track, but I just don't see it as a financially viable option for the amount of gains you get. So, anyway, having said all that, you know what? I absolutely love the Royal Enfield Himalayan. I took it for a nice big ride on this trip. I did about 300 kilometers all up in the end. One thing I did really like, and I was surprised about, and I expect to improve, is the fuel economy. Because the engine is still brand new, I would imagine there's a lot more to go. However, I'm expecting to get about maybe 400 kilometers out of a tank, and it's only a 15-litre tank. So watch this space on that. I'll probably report back on the fuel economy. I won't do a video on it, but I'll probably just do an Instagram post on it. However, folks, we're coming to the end of the video now. I hope you've enjoyed this little adventure I've taken around Taranah and gone to Lake Lyell and got absolutely rained on. But it was good because I got away from that storm and I dried off by the time I was heading towards Bilpin. So that was pretty nice. It was quite refreshing, actually. I didn't bring any rain gear whatsoever. I was not prepared for that storm. However, the Himalayan coped with all of the riding that I did with it, this day, that day that I recorded this, and I have to say it was very comfortable. Maybe the last half hour to 45 minutes, the seat got uncomfortable, so I will be looking at other options there. However, I just want to say, everyone, thanks so much for watching, and remember, keep it twisted.